All right, welcome to the fourth Junior Golf Recruit Podcast, the show that covers everything regarding junior and college golf. I'm Peter Festi, and today we're discussing college golf with the men's head golf coach at Pepperdine University, Michael Beard. After assistant coaches stops at Pepperdine and Arizona State, Michael was hired as the head coach at Pepperdine in 2012, where he's won 21 team titles, including the 2021 National Championship at Greyhawk Golf Club. Michael's former players include the 2024 President's Cup member Sahith Theegala and rising PGA Tour members Joe Highsmith and William Mao, both members of that 2021 team. As a tying connection, our first podcast guest earlier this year, Chris Ambry, was an assistant coach on that Pepperdine's 2021 National Championship team. Pepperdine campus is beautiful in the beautiful seaside city of Malibu, California, about 25 miles west of Los Angeles. It's one of the most beautiful campuses I've ever visited. I'm not sure how kids get to class walking from the dorms on your campus. For those that haven't been there, the dorms are kind of up higher than the classrooms, and they have to walk down towards the Pacific Ocean to go to class. So it's pretty amazing. But welcome, Michael.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Peter. Yeah, for sure. It doesn't get old walking the class, I'd say. I mean, it's just got a neat feel with the ocean breeze coming off coming off the coast there. It's got a great vibe here at Pepperdine. Lucky to be here.
Yeah, we'll talk about the little practice facility you have there on campus a little bit later too, which
Awesome.
probably, well, not probably, it has the best view of any practice facility. But anyways, I saw you about a week ago at Georgia Tech's tournament when you're out here in Atlanta, where your team finished in sixth place and a top five individually for Mahant Shiraviri.
hmm
The Waves fall season also included a seventh and fourth place and a runner-up finish at the University of Washington's event. I think you're returning four starters from last season, kind of young last year, currently ranked 21st in the country. Tell us your outlook on the team heading into the spring.
Yeah, so last year was kind of a total restart. Even though um we had four new guys last year, two transfers and two freshmen. So we only had one returner, and we were planning on adding a player or two in the spring, and that didn't quite happen. So we only had five last year. And so it really was a restart from last year. So the reason I say that is this fall season hasn't been much. Um, we've basically had four of those five that we had last year are uh, have pretty much been in the lineup at each tournament this year, and um, it's just been neat to see the progress of those players um, that we had last year who struggled in the fall and kind of started to find their groove a little bit towards the end of the spring, but just to see the growth in even like 8 to 10 months, just kind of evolve and into really nice players. And I just think it's just kind of started. So essentially one new player this year, and um, that so far in the fall that has contributed. And I think, yeah, like you said, I think we're in the 20th range, somewhere in the 21-20 range, and it's just quite a bit different than from last fall. And so, not only the new guys have they helped us, we have two new guys and then another transfer, but those two new guys have helped us, but the returners have gotten better. So it's really neat to see, yeah, just see the progression, I'd say. So as far as like going into the spring, for us, we have a little bit of an off season right now, maybe 2 months, 2.5 months. We're only allowed to practice with them 4 hours a week, and then instead of 20 or yeah, eight, four of those is for the skill instruction. So we're only really allowed to have four, like helping them with their games. And so um, we're limited a little bit, but it's still a very important time for us because by no means are we satisfied for the fall. We have a very strong schedule in the spring, and all our guys know they need to improve. And we just kind of finished up our end of the fall meetings and gone through and looked at a lot of positives, but really looked at some, two or three areas where they could really grind in the off season to be ready come January.
Yeah, I know. I was looking at your spring schedule. I mean, you start out at the Southwestern, your home event, then go over to Hawaii, which is always a big event. A
Yep.
lot of your teams there.
Yep.
Then out to Palm Springs, the Prestige, which has great teams. Southern Highlands, Stanford at the good one, the Western. Like you're not playing a bad tournament in the spring.
Yeah.
Not an easy one either.
No, no, it's kind of hard. You for some reason the way it worked out, a lot of these really top events are on the West Coast, so we don't have to travel too much. So we try to do a lot of our, long distance travel in the fall.
Yeah,
I mean, Hawaii's not too close, but it's probably the closest for us than
yeah.
any other team. But yeah, we're feel very fortunate to have such a great schedule, and I know our guys are, they get up for each and every event. We host our home event at the Southwestern this year at for years it's been at North Ranch Country Club, and they're doing a remodel, so it's at Sherwood Country Club where Tiger hosted his event for 13 years. They had think the Schwab Cup finals there, and they had the Zozo there. So it's like I'm really excited to see kind of how this works with some new teams coming this January. We have Vandy's coming, Florida, Duke, Texas. It's going to be a really good field, Arizona, and I'm just looking forward to kind of showing off Sherwood because I think it's a really neat place, and I'm hoping the coaches and the teams love it as much as we do.
Is that going to be on the Golf Channel again?
It won't this year. No, we're trying. We're trying. We're hoping maybe there's a last minute push to get it on, but who knows? Who knows? But this year it won't be. Um, yeah, just the way it's fallen. It seems like they've shoot. It seems like certain events are. It's harder to get them on the Golf Channel. It's just expensive. It's expensive to get them on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you just mentioned Duke is coming out to your tournament. They won at Georgia Tech when you guys were out here, so they've got some.
Yeah.
Their Vandy is uh, obviously talented, so that's fantastic. Let me take a step back though. I want to ask you about the 2021 championship. Um,
Yeah.
you had you had a unique lineup going into the stroke play portion of the NCAA's. You left Joe Heisman out the first round, and
Yeah.
he had won the Western a couple of weeks or not too long before that. But
Yeah. It was probably what is the Western? Maybe like mid-April, and we were end of May. So um, yeah, probably is that about 6 weeks or so? Yeah.
it's a great problem for a coach to have.
Yeah. I mean, it, I, I've talked about this before. It was never, I'm very close to Joe, and he's always been, um, we've always had a great relationship. And so, that was a really hard thing, for me to do. And I felt like, and the other two coaches, Blaine Woodruff and Zambri, felt like it was the right decision as well. Um, we we had not only do we have six, I thought the six best players, the team with the best six players, but I think we had the team with the best nine. And I mean, we had our 7, 8 guy that wasn't there. I think we're all Americans at some point while they're at Pepperdine, and I had won tournaments. In fact, Derek Kitchener was one of them, and he won it the next. I want to say 2 years later, he won the Western. So it's like it was a hard thing all year long. It wasn't just that week. And so one of the things that we committed to for the whole year, and I feel like was one of the reasons why we were um, so competitive, was that we just felt like they each week was kind of a new week, and you had to we had it open for the guys to qualify for the next event if they didn't get into the previous one. And never had we done a qualifier in between the regionals and nationals. Um, at the time, Joe didn't play very well, finishing at regionals, um, and we had decided to put kind of a at home, just play a couple days and see where their game's at, sort of thing, kind of a light qualifier, and we were going to decide who was going to go after that. And um, it was I think at the time RJ had had beat the other two guys by like 11 shots in 2 days. So Zambri and Blaine and I are looking at each other and we're like, well, we need to get the best team out there. And long story short, we still didn't know what to do because these other two guys, Joe and Dylan, had been with us and kind of been our number one and two guy really for most of the year. And so, but as we got closer and we felt like RJ was probably playing better than anyone on the team at that point. He might have been our number one player, better than the other guys, but we just at that point at home he hadn't shot, he hadn't I don't think he had shot higher than 67 for like a couple weeks at home. And so um, we felt it was the right decision. I still feel like it was the right decision to put RJ out first. And it wasn't easy after the first round. It wasn't easy taking RJ out and putting Joe in. And so it was just a tough situation. But we really tried to look at it more from a team perspective. And so we felt like it was the best thing for us to play six that week and not just play five. That's what we, um, talked about with the guys, is that we feel like we have the best six and we're going to use those six. And so don't take it personal, but if we have to sub you in and out, that's what we're going to do to feel like we have a best chance of winning. And so when Joe came back in, it was still kind of hard because he didn't know for sure if he was going to stay. It was just the sub thing was still new at that time too.
Yeah.
It might have been maybe the year before was the first year they could do it. We could do it. I think, I'm not sure, but um, and so even as Joe started to, we still talk about that week. I talked to Joe multiple times a week now, and more about his game and kind of each week and what his plan is a week with, on tour. And we still talk about that week as like kind of our base of going back to where he was, um, performed at the highest level under the most pressure. And so, he struggled his first round in there. I think he shot 78 or something. And then from round three on, he played like it was unbelievable how he played. So, anyway, it was an amazing week and a tough call at the time. Um, Looking back on it, um, we all learned stuff that week that I don't think we would have learned if we didn't do it. And I'm not so sure we would have won without starting with RJ, if we didn't start with RJ and then putting Joe in.
Well, and tell me that from a coach's perspective, then, for high school kids out there that are listening to this, um, you play five, typically in most tournaments you play, you have five players, count four in each round and so forth. But that's number 6, 7, 8 guy on your team, even if they're not going to a tournament, can still impact the guys that are playing tournaments just by the qualifying and by staying on their heels and not letting that 4 and 5 guy just kind of go, well, I'm coasting by, I'm starting, I don't need to do anything better. The
Yeah.
6 and 7, 8 guys are just as good, and that just makes your whole team better, doesn't it?
Well, that's, that's if anyone chooses to play this game or to attempt to play this game for a living, that's how it is. I talk to Joe now and he talks about, that stuff was the best thing, even though he hated it, the qualifying and that was the best thing for him. And even now, it's like, you think that for him, like you get to the tour and I'm like, all right, I made it. Well, it doesn't stop at the tour. He's trying to get a top 125, and then you got Sahith up there, and you think, okay, he's made it. I think he was 3 in FedEx Cup number this year, but he's trying to make President's Cup. He's trying to make Ryder Cup. It just never, you never are safe. You never like stop and just say, all right, I'm good, and
Yeah.
that's basically our whole year that year was that. It was like every day you had to go out and prove it because there were so many good players around you. Even if it was just a fun game going playing for fun, like you couldn't relax. And again, that's why I think it worked to do that before. I also think that's what helped us in match play that week. Is just always having to like, even if you don't have it, Joe even talks about it now. He's like, it doesn't matter if you don't feel good or your swing doesn't feel right. You have to go out and shoot a score. You have to.
Yeah.
And it's like, um, if we didn't have the competition in your squad, like if you didn't have like 6 and 7, 8 and 9 guy competitive, then you could just go to the range and kind of go work on your swing and try to figure it out. But it's like, no, I got number 7 is looking at, or number 6 guy is looking at me. He's gonna take my spot if I don't figure out how to shoot 69 today, and that's as hard. It's hard when you're in it, but it really makes it pulls out the best in you as a player and from a team perspective as well. So yeah, I mean the 6, 7, 8, 9 guys are, and that's the other thing, they fluctuate. Like just because you're a 6 guy this week doesn't mean you can't be a 2 guy next week. At
Right.
least that's how we've kind of done it. We try to make it where you have a chance to kind of jump in and kind of make an impact that week if you qualify. So not every program does it, but I've just seen a lot of good come out of that. Again, it's tough when you're in it, but it's kind of what's going to be ahead of you as far as like playing pro golf. You're going to have to kind of do it then. So let's start now.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, let's talk. That's a good segue. So, pro golf. You came from a family. Your father played on the PGA Tour, Champions Tour. Your mother played on the LPGA Tour. How was that growing up?
Yeah, it was all I ever really knew. It was normal for me for my dad to be gone 3 to 6 weeks at a time. And my mom she stopped playing when I was born. So my sister and I, and my mom, a lot of times it was just the 3 of us because my dad was gone playing. And so he played. Uh, I wasn't around when he played the PGA Tour, but he started the Champions Tour in '89, and I was 9, and he stopped in like '95. So it was like 5 or maybe '94, 5 years. But man, as a 9 to 14-year-old, it was awesome. I mean, he's the same age as Jack and Trevino, and so like this is pre-code or pre 9/11. So like the security, you go right into the locker rooms. I just walked in
Yeah.
with my dad, and there's Trevino reading a paper in the locker room, and it's like it's all I mean, I didn't know any different, and it's just like you go in there, change your shoes, and just talking about nothing, and then you go out and play, and then you're just watching these guys. I was fortunate enough to caddy for my dad a handful of times, so to be able to be kind of in it, with them, and it was something that I didn't know at the time, but it made me better as a player. I got to see what it was like to be a player, to play golf, and it wasn't much growing up for me about golf swing and trying to figure out positions and stuff. I mean, obviously my dad helped me a ton, and he was probably, I'd say, actually my mom was probably my coach, but really my dad, I spent so much time with him, and you know, um, and we talked a lot about the swing, but it was more about the playing part, and so that's kind of what I've tried to, or that's the approach I have when I come to our players. A lot of them are coached very well, and some overcoached, and so when they get here, I really try to, um, maybe just more come from an angle of what's the best way to how can we save shots by just playing better, learning how to play. My dad used to always tell me, you got to know that 6 is better than 7, 5 is better than 6,
Mhm.
and so and he used to always say, your guys will be, you'll know they could play when they know that. So um sorry, I just had a so I It was awesome. It was awesome. I got to travel in the summer a lot with my dad and my mom, my sister, and we would go with him and player dining, all that kind of stuff. I was on the range, just being with my dad. I mean, I looked up to him already because he was my dad, but now you put him inside the ropes and playing with all these guys, and it just made it a easy thing for me to just fall in love with the game and want to be a pro, want to be a pro. So. Um, I was never really felt like I didn't need to be told to go practice or, I always wanted, um, sorry, I don't know if you hear these buzzing here. I always wanted to, um, yeah, I always saw myself there and was wanted to play pro golf and play on the PGA Tour and try to have a better career than my dad, which I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, he won 11 times, played the Ryder Cup twice, and was a leading money winner one year. So looking at it now, it's like, holy cow, he's pretty good. But most of the time, I felt like I knew more than him, and but now that I see that, it was just a great way to, if you like the game, just a great way to like grow up and fall in love with it. And so when I went to Pepperdine and when I got to me, Pepperdine was just a kind of a stop on the way, and I mean, I was always going to play in my mind. I was always going to play pro golf and so I tried for 7 or 8 years and really in the big scheme of things, not much success. And so um, when I got into coaching, I never thought about being a coach. I I know golf and try to feel like I'm pretty good with people and understand people. I got that from my mom, but I totally just kind of went all in with coaching and that was 2010. Actually, Andrew Putnam was my first. He was on the team, who's on the tour now. He was on the team at the time, and he was a senior, and I was the assistant. And so I, yeah, I just felt like if we're going to be great at this, and we got to figure out what the best way to be a head coach. And so I went to Arizona State, Tim Mickelson for a couple years, and came back as a head coach here at Pepperdine. And so, I always felt like Pepperdine was better than like underachieve or what's the word? I always felt like that we could be great. The program here at Pepperdine, you could always felt like we could be amazing, and so I kind of brought that uh, with us as we started coaching here and the players that came in here and my assistants. I just felt like that we could be, we may not have football and huge great basketball program, but we could be great at golf, and so. Um, Anyway, that's kind of where
But long tradition at Pepperdine, though. I mean,
for
there was
sure.
Jason Gore, I think, won a national title in the late '90s. I think, is that right?
Yeah, so our the actual golf program is not that it's fairly young, relatively speaking to other some of the other programs that have won two national championships. I mean, we won a team national championship in '97 and in 2021, and so but we didn't really have a golf program until like '88. So it was kind of a club sport before that, from what I understand. And so from '88 to whatever 24 now, it's not really a ton of it's
Yeah.
not like some of these that have been around since, you hear Wake Forest is down, with Jay Haas and Billy Andrade and Palmer was there before
Palmer,
that.
yeah.
So like we haven't had, so if you look at just that, what is that? Um, almost 36 years or so, like it's we've had a lot of really nice players come out of here, in such in a short amount of relatively short amount of time with Jason Gore and Putnam, both Putnams. I mean, but Gore was kind of the big name that got us kind of on the map, I'd say. I mean, winning the national championship in '97 was, I mean, huge. And then Gore kind of being he was kind of our first big guy on the pro level. We had Kevin Marsh before that. It was a little younger than him or older than him, won the mid am. But from us on the PGA Tour, I would say a little bit of Jeff Gove and Jason Gore. I would say Jason Gore, everyone knew the name, knew his name.
Good. All right, let's change directions a little bit just for
Yeah.
in a non-tournament week. Tell us what it's like for your players as far as practice, qualifying, gym, like golf related, but what are they doing during the week or weekend for that matter?
Um, yeah, so our place, we don't have like online classes during the season. Sometime in the summer there's online classes, but Pepperdine is a place where you have to be in class. And so we're busy. I mean, it's one of the things that I feel like that one of the reasons why I feel like some of our guys have had success when they leave here is because they're ready for kind of what life's like, you know. I mean,
Yeah,
they're getting up. We have 3 days a week. We have workouts at 6:30, and then we have class at 8, and then they'll have lunch. They finish class at like 11:30, 11:50, and then lunch, and then practice starts at like 1:15. And so we do that, and then some have night class, some will have some tutoring. There's not that much time, and then you basically do it all over again the next day, other than the 6:30 a.m. workouts. Now, the one thing that's great about Pepperdine is Wednesdays are a light day, and they generally have Wednesdays off. So they go hard Monday, Tuesday, kind of a day off, and then hard Thursday, Friday, and then the weekend off. But it's a lot. It's a lot, especially when we played 4 tournaments in like 2 months. And so you're missing a lot of class, and now you got to stay up with projects and papers and exams and all that. But especially as a freshman coming in, it's just a lot. It's a lot. We require a lot of them, and it's not like we have practice every day, or we'll have practice 5 days a week. But it's like coaches are there. We're helping them work on their stuff, and sometimes we'll do some I don't know, we'll do some testing for part of the practice. But most of the time it's a pretty um, I always felt like when I was in school, I didn't want really to, have someone tell me what I needed to work on. I'd already kind of had a limited time, so I wanted to kind of make sure I had time to get all my stuff done. Um, but we meet with our guys, I'd say every 2 or 3 weeks on figuring out like, hey, what's our plan the next 2 or 3 weeks to make sure we can help them keep them accountable on where they need to improve. So we do a lot of testing, putting testing. We'll do line testing, and some of Zambry's tests actually will do just to
yeah.
give it a little bit of structure. Um, and then during that time, we also squeeze in qualifying rounds as well. We usually qualify 3 rounds for each tournament. Um, and so that can take up some time. And then there'll be days where they're not just like pounding balls too. They're going to go out and play, and we give them the freedom to do that. They don't have to just be doing everything we tell them, but it just seems like I don't know. For me, and I know it just seems like there's not, especially when you're going hard with it in the fall season, there's not that much time. I think they feel the same way. But if they can manage that, if they can figure out how to be, you know, fairly good in school and fairly good in golf, travel and all that, it's really is really helpful as they move on and beyond college. I mean, there's other stuff, as you know, in life that comes at you. It's not like it's
Yeah.
just going to be all golf and they just have all this time. It's basically going to be the same thing. So, um,
Do you
but yeah,
practice? There's a lot of that practice on campus or
we do have um, we have memberships at 3 clubs, Satakoy, North Ranch, and Sherwood. And so, a lot of times I'd say 3 or 4 days a week we'll be at one of those courses. And then the weekends they can go to those courses as well. And then we'll have 1 or 2 days a week we'll be on campus. Um, Usually the on-campus days are a little bit lighter. We're just in the middle of finishing up a putting green, a real bent grass putting green. And then we have a place on campus down there where can hit drivers to wedges, and yeah, just kind of looking over the ocean. It's really cool. It's gonna be sometime here shortly. It'll be improved and kind of up to date, but it's maintained really well right now. We just wanted to add some greens and some more targets and everything. But yeah, it's nice for us where you do have the option not to have to go to the one of the courses to practice.
yeah.
Where if you're having basically if you're having to kind of stay on school or you got a tutor or something, you can still get some work done on campus. That's the idea. And then we started a new facility, like I don't know what we're calling it, but it's like a, if you want to call it a clubhouse, or it's about 8,000 square feet um, indoor facility that we have for locker rooms, offices, lounge area, conference room, and like three hitting bays with a big old putting studio and everything.
Is
We've
that
already
out
started.
on that lawn area too?
So that's actually closer to kind of where our gym is. So it's a little bit more where athletics is,
Okay.
not down below where we practice. But um, it's going to be awesome because that's just another place where they could have, just have their spot. It's obviously have it branded and all that kind of stuff where it feels like their home. But we're spending like $13 million or something on it. It's too much, but it's going to be nice. The only reason I'm saying that is it's going to be nice, and it's going to be like long overdue for us. We haven't really had a place on campus where they could just kind of just be and get schoolwork done and practice
Yeah.
and have their, so it'll be for the men's and the women's teams, we're really looking forward to that. We've started construction on that. We're hoping sounds like in the summer of 20 or spring of 26 uh, it'll be finished. So yeah, I mean, I feel like from a facility standpoint, we've kind of covered, especially being in Southern California, we've kind of covered a lot of bases with course access, and then on-campus facilities. And those are the three courses that we play at a lot, but we also sprinkle in a couple others down in LA. Every once a month we'll do like LA Country Club, or we'll do a Bel Air or Riviera. I mean, it's a really cool little setup.
Yeah.
Um, we have. So I'm excited once this thing's finished, and we can also make the improvements down below and at our kind of range area. And so, yeah, it's starting to come together.
Good. All right, let's talk kind of recruiting for those. So we kind of want to give some kids that aren't familiar with the recruiting process and what they can expect and so forth. What kind of resources do you use? I know when you're talking to Chris and some other coaches at your ranking at that top level, I'm going to say recruiting. I'm not going to say it's easy, but a little bit easier to identify the players that you're going after. But what kind of resources, as far as rankings or what have you, do you use to identify who you're going after?
Um, I'd say we look at junior golf. We look at junior golf scoreboard. We look at as many rankings as we can. We look at Ryan Frazier with Agora Golf is helpful with kind of helping you with the tournaments and kind of who's playing and where they're ranked and all that. I personally use it as Zambri and I have a different, well, not so much a different approach, but a little bit different approach on this. Um, in that he's probably tends to go more towards the rankings, and I probably tend to go a little bit more to possibly the eye test and kind of more of a feel, which he'd hate for that, for me to say that. But and yeah, he's a little bit more numbers and rankings, and that's why I think we were a pretty good team, because he kind of probably pulled me a little bit that way, and I probably pulled him a little bit my way, and um, so yeah, I know for me, I mean, recruiting is not easy. Regardless, it's not easy. Anyone says it's easy, it's there's. I don't think anyone will actually. It's not. It's just hard. It's just hard. It's hard um, to really predict. 4 or 5, 6 years out. It's also hard to um, find a player in a family that totally you know, maybe because Pepperdine's kind of a niche school, we're different than a lot of other places. It's not for everybody. When you do
Mhm.
find the ones that it is for, it's amazing. It's just our pool. I was at Arizona State, and our pool of kids were probably, this big, and Pepperdine just feels like it's maybe a tenth of that or a 20th of that. So it's just hard. It's hard to, um, you got to get the kids that fit kind of that match up with the coaches, the school, can see the value in Pepperdine and what we have, to offer, and can see that it's really cool, um, and can really help not only, your game while you're in college, but after. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, I think for me, when I look at I think you're going to go here in a minute. You're going to ask me, what do I look in recruits? Probably, right? You're going to go that
Hmm. Yep.
way.
Yeah.
So I can kind of start with that. But I think for me, um, I'm I'm kind. Oh, can you hear me?
Yep. So
Okay,
good.
I'm kind of I'm kind of drawn to golf guys, golf kind of rats, and so um, I I know for me when I'm looking at the guys, at these players when they're young playing, I'm trying to figure out like how bad, like how much does the player want it? Is this coming from a coach, parents, or anyone else? Is it like everything that I'm looking at is I'm trying to figure out, is this his deal? Is this his deal? And
Hmm.
does he really want to be, great? Does he what does he want to do with this? And so if I can determine, that they're, along with the visit, you have to have them on campus because you're not really allowed to talk to them when you're there, watching them play, depending on what years they are. But as long as like you get them once they're on campus, you get to know them a little bit more, and then as I'm watching them play and evaluating them, if they kind of match up with someone that's just really would just has a deep motivation, desire to be great, um, then the rankings and the golf swing and technique aren't as important to me. Now, if I don't know that, and then I would probably lean more towards the rankings and kind of maybe more of the physical stuff. Um, but not one kid is going to have the exact, makeup as exactly like a perfect, what am I trying to say? Like a perfect recruit, So like you
Right.
just got to find a way if they're gonna, you got to find different things to see if he'll fit with with us, with other guys in the team, and um, and if they don't, then will they be able to adapt and kind of will the culture be strong enough to help them along the way to get there,
Yeah.
to get where we want to be? So yeah, I know that's kind of vague. I mean, a lot of kids want to know and parents want to know, hey, it's this score and this ranking and this result. And I'd hate to put myself or anyone else in the corner like that, because if they ended up being like that, they achieve it and then it's just, yeah, to me it's a little bit more of a intangible stuff that I look for that I've seen in a lot of great players, um and sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you just gotta, maybe they're ranked well or they're not ranked well and you like the kid and the family and you go for it, and when they get there it's like they're amazing, and you just no one would have ever
Yeah.
imagined, kind of thing. So um advice to the ones that are trying to find their school, and um one thing, I don't mean to be rambling so much here, but the one thing that I would say, if actually have a freshman in high school, just started, and one of the things that I would say to like his age or even older is to a find someone that has done it that they can kind of just be around. Like um if their coach like was a player or had played, had been if the coach had played college golf or had been around the tour or had played the tour, like that to me is such a big asset to have. Like a lot of times we get advice from our parents, and our parents haven't done it or have been, like don't really know what it's like when you're, nervous and you got the lead going to the last hole and you got to find a way to hit the fairway, like they don't
Right.
really know. And so I would recommend younger kids to like really find people that are maybe even if it's a college kid that's maybe 4 or 5 years older than you, or a coach that's, had experience, playing. And so um, it's going to help that player and the recruit as a junior, but also when they get to college too.
Yeah. You've had over the years, you've had a lot of success in California recruiting players.
Yeah.
Is that partially because California just produces a lot of great players, or is it the proximity to the school or familiarity?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm a West Coast guy, so I'm kind of maybe can relate to the West kids, possibly, but I t- I mean the Southern California like junior golf, the Tour Cup, and like it is so competitive down here. So yes, I think a lot of it is just the level that there's a lot of depth in California. I also know I also think that the California kids know Pepperdine too.
Yeah.
Let's say to an international kid compared to a Southern California, I mean, they kind of know Pepperdine, and
Yeah.
so or at least had heard of it. So it's a little bit easier to kind of maybe talk on, maybe when they were younger, they had more Pepperdine in their minds, at some point, or they knew someone that went to Pepperdine, or rather than talking to maybe someone from a different part of the country that had never even heard of it. So we're
Right.
still a small school, we don't have a huge brand. We're trying, but we don't have a huge brand. So it's that's probably why. Also when you get a couple kids from California, a lot of the kids know each other too. They all
Yeah.
know each other and they grow up playing with each other. And so you have a buddy going like, "Oh yeah, I kind of gonna go check it out." So that sometimes that works out that way too. Um,
Kids
Bruce,
recruiting other kids for you, kind of on your
yeah,
behalf.
Bruce Hepler told me the best recruiter is the other recruits, the other kids. It's
Yeah.
not those are the best recruiters. So sometimes that's worked out that way. I know that's how it was with Saheth when he committed. Everyone knew who he was and knew what a great guy he was, and like they were at least interested. We didn't get all those kids that were interested, but they were at least kind of wanted to come check it out. Um, so that's what I would say. And they're just I feel like California kids are pretty good. I mean, I think they're
They
really good.
are.
And I
Yeah.
don't pretty good isn't fair. They're really good. They're really good.
Yeah. No, it's not hard to look down the rankings and see where a couple of states stand out. Um, so, what are when you attend? How many attend? Do you get to attend a lot of junior tournaments or not?
Yeah, for sure.
What do
Yeah.
you look for when you're out there,
Yeah, I
or
mean it kind of
or what things turn you off when you're
yeah,
looking?
that kind of goes back to if I can figure out like how if I can watch someone play and figure out that he's really this is his thing, kind of goes back to what I was saying. If it's like his thing and he's um gonna work through these three bogeys he just made his way and figure out how to get out of a hole he's in, or when he gets off to a good start, how does he handle that? I mean, I just feel like that um again, obviously you're looking at the ball flight and the golf swing, all that kind of stuff. But to me, the stuff is more of like a possible situation that he might kind of happen to find himself in. Whether it's I bogeyed the first hole and I've got a 7-footer for par on the second hole. Like how does he respond to that? So
Yeah.
I try to look for certain situations where um, my best players that have come through here at Pepperdine are the best problem solvers, and not even just golf problem solvers, just in life stuff. And so it's a skill, and I think that um, you can learn it. But man, if you can figure it out even as a young kid to like again, or maybe to make a cut. You're in a junior tournament, you got to make a cut, and you got to maybe just watching them have to work through some stuff, some adversity, I guess you could say, or some good stuff, like some good stuff. I got having a lead, and what do you do the next day when you come out? Do you come out ready to go, or do you kind of give a few shots back early and then crawl your way back to the top? So I mean, all sorts of stuff like that. Short game is really important to me to see from a technique standpoint. It's really hard to get someone that has some like demons chipping. Um, I feel like it's hard to really kind of help them along the way. You can help someone that's got a poor short game, but if they got like some demons, that one's hard. So like if
Yeah,
that would be something that I would look for that I would not want, you know.
right.
But then again, if they're ranked high and they're leading the tournament and they got some demons chipping, then that means they're hitting it really well. If you can figure out how to help them with the chipping, then he's going to be amazing. So I mean, I don't know. There's all sorts of different scenarios where like you can make it fit or not make it fit. But to me, I think 50% of it's the get them on campus and get to know them, and then the other 50% is the golf.
All right. Let me ask you a couple of questions that I got. I asked Instagram for some questions. Here was a couple that came through. What
Okay.
tournaments do you think are best for college coaches at your level that you're looking at?
Mm.
And I'll throw another one in that. Does that include junior and amateur tournaments or junior only?
Hmm.
A lot of kids are playing amateur or starting to play some amateur events when they're in high school.
Yeah, I mean the amateur events are fine. I think that unless you dominate the junior events, you don't need to play amateur events. I mean, if you're dominating junior events, and then you can kind of graduate to the amateur events. I think when you try to skip a level, I just feel like it's still golf, like just because if you were like if you were okay at junior golf and you just, you know what, I've moved on to amateur golf. I think maybe I'll be better. It's like it's just still golf. So I mean, I would find anything you can dominate in, whether that's a local junior event. Um, maybe once you dominate there, then you go a little bit more outside of your region a little. I think that's what I like to see is um, some good stuff close, and then can you still be good, have the good stuff when you travel a little bit. Doesn't always matter in the tournament, unless there's 12 kids playing and you don't hadn't heard of the 11 of them. I mean
Right.
that's but and maybe I'm spoiled a little bit because there's two Toyota Tour Cup down here in Southern California. To me, they're still very competitive. In fact, they don't seem that much different to me than AJGA events because
Yeah.
just of the depth in California. So I might be a little spoiled. If I were in a different state, then maybe I'd say I'd be a little bit more specific on which junior events. But for me, around here, you're just playing in tournaments. That's good with me. As far as kind of like watching um, the results, and then obviously Junior Worlds and the US Juniors and the bigger ones, the Junior PGA. The bigger ones in the summer um, are always ones that we look at that maybe we would probably put a little bit higher than some of the local events, but just because there's a bigger field usually, and it attracts more um, other kids from like across the country. Um, yeah,
Give you a
so
perspective of where they are relative to
yeah,
other.
yeah, a little bit. But I mean, if a guy's dominating in his area and then he goes and plays in a bigger event and doesn't play well, it doesn't mean that I don't like him. It's just more of like gives you an idea of where he stacks up that week,
Right.
like that's only one week. Um, like it's to me, he's not I don't check him off the list, it's just more data, more info.
Well, let me tell you, let me ask you this, because for kids that are thinking this way, because I've had some that have contacted me and they'll think that one great tournament is what's going to turn the page for you, or that one bad tournament is going to be adverse for them. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's the furthest from the truth. There. I mean, that's at least for me. For me, I can't speak of other coaches, but for me, uh, it's helpful to see you win and play a tournament, but it's also helpful for me to see you play bad too. So um, it
you're
might
not
be
alone.
just the same.
Every coach has said that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's. I want to see why you played bad. What part of your game wasn't where it should be, and um, I just don't. I think we get too much into the rankings. I think they get too much into the rankings, and there's too many people that know how to find a way to like, maybe dodge a little bit of a bad whatever rank somehow. And I just that's why I have gradually maybe not looked at. valued it as much as I had in the past. Maybe because I've been doing it longer. I can kind of seen um, that a lot of good players aren't always ranked top 5 in the state. I mean, I think Sauce was ranked number 9, in California, and when I was recruiting them. So now Morikawa and Justin Suh was 1 and 2. So I
Yeah.
mean, they're really good too. So I don't know. I'm just
All right, let's go to another page. There are a lot of things that have been changing in the NCAA in the last couple of years. Um, and from what I've heard over the last couple of months with every coach I've talked to, um, the response of always what's going on now or next year. It's the response is usually get back to me next week. Things are changing all the time. What where are you right now as far as part of like the 2025 26 season with is it going to be roster limitations, scholarship, unlimited scholarships? What do you know now?
yeah. So I mean, I think we still don't know for sure, but um, last week at golf club, I had heard that SEC was going to go. They voted on going to 8.
Yeah,
Their roster
yeah, I
limit
heard.
was 8, and you can fund 8 scholarships, or you didn't mean that everyone was going to have 8 full scholarships, but that was for sure they voted on 8. As far as the roster limit goes, our conference hasn't voted on that yet. We've been told from our people here, our staff here, that they don't think that they think they'll keep it at 9.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know what our um, school is going to do. Every school is going to be different. You hear some schools say no, they're going to stick with 4.5, and then you have others that are going to go to 6, and then maybe 7. And I don't even know where we are yet with it. But um, I, I'm uh, we're not in the Power Four conference, so our we may not fall in line with what others do. I think it could potentially be a good thing for us. We don't have football, so we don't have to worry about adding, 25 and Title IX and,
yeah,
all this stuff as much. We still have to worry about Title IX, but just adding 25 more men's and then got baseball and that, like
yeah,
I feel like it could end up being a good thing for us if we can get even if we can get to 7 scholarships or 8, like I feel like one of the things that's always been tough here at Pepperdine is just the cost. It's just so expensive.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we literally have 4.5 scholarships. I don't have more than that, so it's
yep,
if I can get to 7, I mean that'd be amazing. And
yeah,
I know they're talking about NIL being in-house, which would help us even more, to be able to um, maybe we hit 7 or 8 from the school, and then, we can fundraise for the remaining to get to 9 and then have everyone on a full scholarship. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. I'd love to be able to do that. It's been always been a tricky thing for me to try to find really good players on low money.
yeah,
It's just hard when they can go to another place and pay a lot less. Um, and so anyway, I'm actually hopeful that this could be a really good thing for us. And so I don't know though. I don't know where we're at as far as like. I mean, I'm hearing 80% it's going to happen, 20% it's not, but that changes, day by day, so I don't know. I mean, we're just kind of waiting. We're kind of waiting. It sounds like we'll know the final answer in April, but maybe some more, a little bit better idea, obviously, before that. We have
so for the class of 2025 that'll sign next month, is that still kind of on the 4.5?
that's what we are. That's what we're going off of. I'd be surprised if someone was going off of more than that, just because they could get into some trouble with
Yeah.
offering more, and then and what if that doesn't happen? I don't know. I know that's how we are. We're going off of 4.5. Um,
And if down the road you get more money,
that's
you can
right.
you can make kids that you already signed really happy.
That's right. And you've already agreed on a certain number with the 25. So it's not like they're going to be expecting more.
Right.
Um, at least, right away. So we'll see. We're definitely we'll have um we're going to be the transfer portal is going to be a real. I mean it's going to be insane. The transfer portal is going to be insane because especially if these SEC schools have to cut to eight.
A lot of players.
Yeah, it's a lot of players and a lot of good players too. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams that they're still in the 12, 13, 14
I
range.
know, I know, and they got to get to nine. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Um,
feel bad. I feel bad. I feel bad for the 25s. I feel bad for the 26s because they just kind of hit on them, and I think there's probably a lot of people that families and kids are a little nervous. Like, man, I got to get a spot somewhere.
yeah,
And it's hard because the coaches don't really know yet. Like from what I understand, SEC was planning on nine and they went to eight. What if they had committed? Like I
right.
just can. This is a tough spot for
Well,
both sides.
even I don't like the situation that the kid might be in of academically, maybe, whether it was Pepperdine or SC or Georgia or whoever was the dream school they wanted to go to academically.
Yeah,
If they're the 9, 10, 11 kid, they may be forced to go to a school that academically they didn't want to go to, but
yeah,
just to continue playing golf. So we'll
I
see.
know, I know.
Um, all right, let's NIL. Um, how does that work? Do you have that at your school? Are kids getting
We have a collective. We do. We haven't really figured out how to. We haven't figured it out yet as far as our we don't have any guys on our team right now that are getting NIL.
okay?
I know our basketball is. We're still trying to figure out. Um, I think we're going to be in a good. I'm hoping it goes in house. The part of the settlement piece, I hope it goes in house. So we haven't jumped in from a golf side yet to really do a ton of NIL. Um, I don't know why, but we just haven't. We haven't really done it yet. I think I'm hoping for scholarship. Like I
Yeah,
want to figure out the scholarship piece, and then we can figure out the NIL if we need to. But if I can get everyone on a full, and then I think that'll be. I mean, to me, that would be great. Now, and if we can get him some NIL, great. I want to get this scholarship piece taken care of first. But I haven't
yes,
seen a big NIL push out here at least. I think it's probably more in the southeast for golf.
definitely.
Yeah,
Uh, is there? I know golf is a little bit different than other sports in that there's the summer amateur events, and if you qualify for the Masters or the U.S. Open and so forth, and you're seeing kids that 5 years ago used to go to the U.S. Open and wear their Pepperdine gear and their Pepperdine bag,
yeah,
and now they go and they've got the Callaway bag and a um,
yeah,
Adidas clothes or what have you. Do you have is that
yeah. I mean
you have that with your
that
kid?
yeah, that's been definitely a thing. The last four years or so, 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, there's manufacturers that are who have guys giving NIL. And I get it. I get it. I mean, it's kind of stinks because you invest a lot from a scholarship standpoint, for them to go to school here. But I also get it too. If they're going to get paid to play or to wear their stuff, then I get that part too. So I understand both sides of it. Um, but it seems to be a little bit more that way now in the last 2 to 3 to 4 years because you can, I guess.
Yeah,
Um, and that manufacturers want to lock up I guess it's not totally really locking up, but the idea is they'll lock them up as amateurs, and then when they turn pro, they could say, "Hey, see what we've done. Even as an amateur, we were there supporting you."
right.
Um, so, I mean, I understand that. I understand that too, because really, it's not that much money to them at this level now. If they're going to sign someone for, a bunch of money, if they can kind of do it just small stuff now to kind of keep them on the hook, I get that.
Well, and it seems like what I've seen too, the equipment and apparel people are still trying to figure out what that balance is of if I pay this
Yeah.
kid this much, am I getting a return on that? Is social
Yeah.
media certainly has played a big portion of that as
No question. No question. Yeah.
um, and then you touched on it real quickly, the transfer portal. You've had kids transfer in, you've had kids that transfer out. That wasn't
Yeah.
the case as much before they changed the rules. Um, is that something that you still look at in addition to the recruiting of high school kids?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because you don't know who's going to be in there, and but I've had some success with transfers. I'm not sure why, I think just maybe a second place, and they just have a different perspective on college golf and just college in general. They're usually a little older. Um, but all the transfers that we've gotten have been awesome. So I'm kind of like, to be honest, haven't had a bad experience with the transfer. So it's not a I kind of view as a good thing. The only thing that can be a little tough from a coaching, like if you view it as recruiting, is I hadn't really. You kind of just have to go with their record and the ranking and stuff like that. And from a recruiting standpoint, you get time to kind of evaluate and look and figure out, can I help them in these areas where they're not, um, where they're kind of, down here. Can I help that person there? And now when it comes to transferring, you kind of you skip that process. You just kind of have to take them for what they are, where their golf game is wise. Like now from a personality and culture wise, I think that you can get a big feel, or you can get a good feel for how they are. But from the golf standpoint, and the fact that you have less time to work with them. When you're recruiting these juniors, you got 4 years and you get time to kind of,
Yeah,
help them grow. Well, we've had 1 year guys, we've had 2 year guys, 3 year guys, so it's like, but you still have less time than what the 4 years. So you have to kind of maybe change your coaching a little bit on that. Um, but
but
I
you've seen
think,
there's, but at the same time, you've also seen their scoring in college events, maybe events that you've played in.
yeah,
You kind of have a barometer of where they are.
for
Uh,
sure. For sure. Yeah, you definitely do. And like I said, in my experience, it's been of a positive thing, from the however long they've been, whatever, the last 4 or 5 years. It's been a positive thing, for us. I don't know, and I think if you ask our guys, they would also feel the same. I'm not sure exactly why. I'm curious to see. I bet others feel the same way. Maybe you make a decision as a 15 or 16-year-old, and why you feel and what you think at 16 is different than where you are at 20,
yeah,
and so, yeah, I'm not sure exactly, but I also don't like maybe some reasons why kids would transfer. It's like, well, I don't know, like it just seems like I also understand the part of, like, when things get hard, having to work through it too. I
right.
mean, you hear that, like, oh, well, now you hear people say they don't ever have to, if they don't like something, they just get in the portal. I don't like that. I mean, that might be a little extreme. They don't certainly like that, but I mean, I don't like that either. I like them having to work through some stuff, but um,
Well, and I've
yeah, I mean,
talked to mid to lower level D1 coaches that feel like they have to they might get that kind of flyer kid out of high school that flew
yeah,
under the
it's a good
radar,
point.
and then they start coaching them up. They play well, and after their sophomore year, they're playing so well that they go, play for somebody else, and
That's
then
a great point. That's a
again.
terrible. I mean, yeah. I get both sides of that. I
Yeah,
get like the coach and the player. It's like, oh, well, now I have an opportunity to go, but it's just not a good situation for either one of them.
yeah. It doesn't seem to be as big a problem in golf. Um, this year, when I loaded all the rosters for D1, I think it came back to be like about 7%, just a little over 7% of the kids transferred, whether that's from a D1 to D1 or a D2 to
I
D1.
see. Okay.
So it wasn't that. it wasn't as prevalent as I thought it was going to be because it seemed like a lot of kids were transferring.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but it was
Probably just because it's
came out to be a
new
little
and
lower than I thought it would be.
probably just new and people talking about it, like people
Yeah.
talking about it just makes you feel like it's more than what it really is.
Yeah. All right. Last question.
Okay.
Uh, top five golf courses that you played that your kids, your either you play when you played, for that matter,
Okay.
or that you played as a coach um,
Like
for
tournaments, would
college
you
event
say, or just like
tournaments. Yeah,
okay, okay.
tournaments only.
Because we got to take our guys to Augusta a couple times, and that was amazing.
All right. Well,
But
I'll
we'll
put an
count that
asterisk
one.
next to that one. That's
Okay.
okay.
All right.
I've been
Yeah,
Georgia. That one gets an exception.
yeah, it's true. We played a tournament at Cypress Point last fall. That was amazing. We get to go out to the Floridian down there. Jonathan Dismuke at Houston hosts an event down there. It's awesome. Um, Southern Highlands is still one of our favorites. UNLV's event. I think the whole vibe there is just cool. The course is great. Just the whole just feels like a big event.
Yeah.
Um, I like golf. I like Bruce's event at Golf Club of Georgia. That one was our
Yeah.
guys love our guys love that one. Pasta Tiempo. I mean, that thing's awesome. It's on TV and it's just an old gem. I mean, that one's great. So I would say I don't think I've missed. I mean, Olympia Fields, Mike Small's event out there is an awesome. I mean, it's just a great tournament, great field, great golf course. So I'd say those. I might have given you six, but um, I might be missing one in there. I'll have to get back to you on it. But I feel like that's a pretty good lineup there.
All right. Good. I appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thanks, Peter.
Um,
Appreciate it.
Before we leave this, just coming up for viewers, we've got Christian Jones will be coming up. He's a TPI trainer. Jim Owen from Oglethorpe, Scott Fawcett in November, December timeframe from Decade Golf. And then in January, Chris Zambry is coming back to tell us what he's been doing all year. He's been doing a lot. So I'm looking forward to
Awesome.
finding out what else he's doing. So good luck in the spring. Thanks for your time.
All right. Thanks, Peter.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right.